Intellectuals do. Intellectuals do. With James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative. Prophetic and practical.
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that person?
Informative and
I feel
inspirational.
every bit of it. Like, I'm not trying to waste my
How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectuals do.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectuals do. Intellectuals do. With James Kirkland. Intellectuals do. Intellectuals do. Intellectuals do.
All right, Doc.
All right.
Yeah, we gotta get our audience back in here now. Let me share this right quick. I think this is gonna work a whole lot better.
All right. All right.
Y'all
Using
forgive me.
Wi-Fi.
Say what now?
Using Wi-Fi, or you have Ethernet connection.
I use Wi-Fi, man, so I guess I need to start using the Ethernet connection because
Definitely.
yeah. Well, and I've been doing, I've done it for 3 years going on now, and
I know.
and I haven't had any problems, but until the last 2 weeks, and I started talking about fueled faith and trying. I guess the devil don't want us having these kind of conversations, but
Yeah.
we're gonna have it
Yeah.
anyway.
How many devices?
In my
How many
house right
devices on your Wi-Fi right now?
now, probably 4 or 5. Well, but the TVs are off right now. They're not on. My daughter doesn't watch TV.
Yeah.
So she probably has her phone in there, but that's about it. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
We don't usually have these kind of issues, but for whatever reason, we've been struggling. So I'm trying to.
It's all right.
We're gonna try to get our followers back in here now. We were starting to build up a little audience. If you would go ahead and share it again, share the
Okay. All right.
most recent version of what we got going on here, and we'll get people
Got
back
it.
in here. Let me try to get some people back in here. Y'all, we were having a great conversation. We were saying some, so we're gonna probably reiterate or jump back over some of the stuff that we missed, and try to get people on. Like I said, because we had a good one going. We really did.
Oh yeah.
And
We'll get it back.
Oh yeah, we'll get it back going. I'm just sharing this with a few people right quick because I know they'll jump back in a minute.
Okay.
So what we were jumping into for those who were starting to come into the conversation, and I apologize for whatever reason. And I got a new laptop too, man. I don't like that. For some reason, I don't like it. It doesn't seem like it works. I don't know. But
You got a Mac or a PC?
It's a PC. It's a PC. But I've been using the PC the whole time. Same, the one I'm using right now. You hear me on time.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I try to use the bigger computer with the faster speed and all that kind of stuff. And this is those were the results we got. You know what I'm saying? And but I'm scared to use it now until I get it right. So we're gonna get it right. So here we are again. Go ahead.
I said, well, maybe this can help. Let's just focus on controlling what we can control. And
Absolutely.
we can't put toothpaste back in the tube. Only thing we can do is move forward.
Man, hey, I'm good. So listen, we're getting good conversation now, and everything is fine, like I said. So hopefully our audience will come back in a few minutes, and we can continue this conversation entitled Faith for Fellowship. And what we did, for those that might be coming in new. We started talking about Matthew chapter 8, how it uniquely it's positioned, and strategically, I believe, positioned right after
Yeah.
the Sermon on the Mount. Right after the Sermon on the Mount, after Jesus has made them sit in this seminar all day long. All day long. They sat in this seminar all day long, and they needed some excitement, right? Because they hear, all of this, and all these parables, and when you pray, do it like this, and before you judge somebody else, make sure you look at the beam in your own eye. They hear all of these things, man, and then all of a sudden Jesus comes down, and he immediately goes to work. He immediately has to heal a leper. He immediately has to heal a leper, and then right behind healing a leper, he heals a centurion's servant. And then, like I said, we go through this moment, and this young scribe, after seeing this wonderful demonstration by Jesus, makes the conscious choice that because of what he has seen, now he wants to make the sacrifice of following Jesus. And Jesus said, before you do that, consider this: foxes have holes, birds have nests. Because where we got the idea that everything was going to be glitz and glam, that every day was going to be Sunday and Sabbath would have no end, and we'll be just praising around the throne, the holy of holies forever. Some of us we didn't get the right memo. You know what I'm saying? Because Jesus said in John 10:10, in the world you shall have what? Tribulations. So what we're doing tonight is we're talking about things that perhaps have helped to fuel your faith. And we were talking a moment ago, and you said that the foundation for your faith came from your home, from your mother and your father. But then some examples of your faith. And you said you had a recent incident during the pandemic. Tell us about that again, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally believe, and this is hindsight. So it's not that I'm some scribe or some sage, but I believe faith is first modeled so that the seed can be planted. It's still in seed form and hasn't germinated, hasn't grown yet. So that seed has been planted for a long time, and seeing the various instances from how we got our first church building until today, it was planted. So my faith story, of course, came during the pandemic. We didn't know what it was in December of 2019 and January of 2020. But our church leadership had been meeting for 4 years because we were in an old building, 112 years old, and it needed extensive work to bring it up to code, which was going to cost us about $1.8 million to do a complete gut and rehab.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, we said, hey, what if we pursue parallel tracks? And by that, what if we sold it as well as pursued it? So we launched a campaign, of course, and we're pursuing both paths. Then COVID hits in March of 2020. So I'm living in a state where we had shutdown rules. It was hard lockdowns. And so we had to go online, but it wasn't a problem for us because we had been streaming and doing things online since 2015 anyway. So we are in this predicament: remodel versus relocate. Our building sells right in the midst of COVID. And so now it's fine because we're still in lockdown and we still are streaming. Lockdown ends. And so now we've transitioned from our old place to our new place, which requires a heavy dose of faith. And here's why. Don't know about in Atlanta area or in the South, but hey, in Chicago, our people, they have a theology of place where they associate God's presence with being in a place. And I'm not trivializing that experience because that was the building people said goodbye to loved ones. That was the building where people married. They had life-changing moments. So I'm conscious of that. And I know they're grieving, but in order to transition like that, I believe that the faith that I saw modeled was activated into super mode when we launched and transitioned to where we are today. So I say this, what do you do when you have no tangible evidence that things will get better? You got to activate faith. And faith doesn't wait for perfect conditions.
No,
It does not.
no.
Faith and fellowship, we have faith for followership, doesn't wait for perfect conditions. And it doesn't care about my comfort, because I've been into some very uncomfortable situations through this transition. So it was nothing but faith, which is activated through modeling and then in practice, being in a position where there's no tangible evidence, things will get better.
Yeah. I heard one definition I heard of faith, and this one been one of my favorite definitions, is when I leap into the unknown with only God as my basis. I don't have any foundation for the faith, for the belief, but I like to, use the expression that since the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, I'm just taking a walk. And sometimes I do it with sometimes, Doc, I do it with my eyes closed, right? Because sometimes I have to close my eyes when I really need to see, right? Because that's what real faith is. I'm not married anymore, but I bet my wife used to hate me because I used to go looking for faith struggles or faith trials, because I was looking for a testimony, right? Because I know that if I went through it, I could tell somebody else that God did it. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I was a martyr a lot of times, man. So I know what you mean when you talk about operating in faith. So even during those moments, because that's what Jesus was trying to teach the young scribe. You got to count up these costs in those moments during the pandemic when you all were without a building and y'all were in that situation. Did it ever cause you to question everything? Did it cause you to question your pastorate? Did it cause you to question your leadership skills? Did it ever cause you really to bring anything to question like that?
Absolutely. Still questioning. That's one of the things you wrestle with, the tension.
Okay.
And that's a tension, I believe, that's not resolvable, because if I had all the answers, I wouldn't need faith. And I called into question my decision making. Called into question the whole scenario and how it played out. I've seen people who were once familiar become strangers overnight because of a building. I've seen people disengage, not from me, because I'm a king in my home, which is what matters to me. But I've seen people, I was hurt because I've seen people who had long-standing relationships with other people and then see them totally disengage, all because of a decision. And so that taught me every decision you make as a leader is going to earn the favor of some and the disfavor of others. And when I look at on this hand that we're reaching, 1,000 times more people than we were in our building. I'm looking at how our reach has grown to 70,000 views a month through our online platform. I look at how internationally and the things that we've been able to do and the relationships that have been made. But then on the other end, since I was a church boy and grew up in church, and this has been my whole entire life, you question that, because you still have some of the remnants of the old in you. You don't totally kill like the person who's battling substances. It never really goes away. It's still there, the residue. And so when you look at that and then you look at where God's taken you, it's a serious call to question one's faith. And I would be a fool if I didn't acknowledge how much that played a role in what I do.
And that's why this scripture makes so much sense, right? Because like you said, Evan, Christianity was never considered to be comfortable. or anything of the sort. It was all about commitment. It was all about, who's willing to, here it is, not only suffer through, but with the proper perception, you understand that you're suffering too as well, right? Because there's something on the other side of suffering. That's why Christ himself warned us. He said, this is not going to be an easy road. That was my point when I brought up the mega churches, because a lot of, people were able to go into the church, hide, Sunday school wasn't as prevalent as it used to be. You could come in late, leave early. Some of the churches I sit in, there's no, you can sit in the plush seat. We got theater seats in our church and marble all around the place. But my pastor now, one day he blew my mind. Doc Sutton been pastoring 54 years. 54 years. He has seen tens of thousands of people come through that church, right? And one day we're walking through the foyer. And this young lady, she wasn't even dressed up, had on jeans and a regular t-shirt, her hair wasn't really done like that, you know what I'm saying? But when Pastor walked by her, he said, now I'm talking about thousands of people he's seen in 54 years. 54 years ago, how long ago? That was like 1979. That was a long time ago, right? I mean, that was 1970, a long time ago. Anyway, he's been in
71.
Years. He saw this young girl.
Yeah.
He said, come here, young lady. You're a visitor here, aren't you? I've never seen you before. You understand what I'm saying? So when a pastor can get to know you and see, I know the Moses structure. God told Moses, get 12 leaders and put one leader over every tribe. And I know you put pastors in place for them. But there's something about the pastor's touch. And the more he became untouchable, because people weren't coming for, they wouldn't, because you just said, nigga, they wasn't even coming for the position. Some of them was coming for the place. And so what used to grow started to swell. And when it swells, sometimes it bruises. And what ended up happening is the church eventually began to suffer in the long run. I asked my pastor this question one time. I said, do you think mega churches killed the local church? And he thought about it. He said, because people were following for the demonstration. The scribe only wanted the demonstration. Because of what he saw, he said, Lord, I want to follow you. I need some of that. That looks like a good investment.
Yeah. But he wanted the cross and comfort.
Yeah. But that couldn't happen.
Doesn't work like that.
The cross comes with chaos. It comes with catastrophes. It comes with calamities. It comes with contiguous. So many things have come with the cross, right? But it also comes with commitment. Who's going to carry it despite whatever takes place? Who's willing to carry it? And that's all Jesus was saying. And then he even gives us insulation because he says, Lo, I'll be with you.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah.
Even until the ends of the earth. I'm going to be with you. So if you're willing to go through it, I'm going to go through it with you. Right? So let's get back into your story, right? How did this particular verse, resonate with you during those moments of challenge?
It resonates because faith, again, doesn't wait for perfect conditions. And as long as I have the guarantee of his presence, that also means that I can activate his power. And then therefore that gives me the umption to keep moving.
Yes.
As he says, the word is a lamp unto my feet. Lord, illuminate my path enough because of your presence and your power that I can take the next step on this faith journey.
Yeah.
Doesn't wait for perfect conditions.
Doesn't wait for perfect conditions. And the thing is that if Jesus went through it, why wouldn't we go through it? Because so many of us.
So was Jesus's cross filled with comfort? Was the cross comfortable for Jesus?
Nothing about the cross was comfortable for Jesus. Nothing about the cross was comfortable for Jesus. Now, the soldiers wanted to shoot dice for his robe, so his garment must not have been too cheap. That's a joke. I'm joking about that part. But there were times that Jesus had to cross over stormy seas. There were times that he had to avoid having stones cast at him because people didn't like what he was saying. He had to endure being talked about because he hung out with the wine bibbers and the publicans, and everybody thought he should have been with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I mean, so if Jesus went through being talked about, if Jesus had to go through rough seas, if Jesus had to worry about where he was going to stay, because even when he came into the world, I think, what did they say something about there was no room in the inn?
Yeah.
So if Jesus wasn't received, if it was always uncomfortable, then how is it that we get angry when we become comfortable? Or when we get a little uncomfortable?
Because we've been conditioned.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned. Okay, as parents, let's back up. As parents, I know my parents' role in knowing you and having conversations over the years. You know, you cut from that same cloth. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand on the shoulders of people who wanted to make our paths smoother. I know I do it for my children. I know you've done it for yours, and etc. We want to see the next generation do better. So sometimes at the expense of doing that, there's an expectation of an easy path. And because there's an expectation of an easy path, and we're doing things to propel them forward, then everything becomes comfortable. And I know to the detriment that sometimes we get in the way of the work that Christ needs to do within their lives to strengthen and embolden their faith.
The expectation of an easy path. That's an interesting way of expressing.
Yes, sir.
Where is that expectation?
Think about it. We want everything. That expectation.
Yeah, but where does that come from? Where does the expectation of an easy path come from, though?
Well, we present life as comfort. We used to go pick up our movies at Blockbuster, or up here we have that red box thing.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, in Chicago, it gets cold. And I don't want to go in the cold. So now what pops up? Netflix.
Yeah.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Convenience.
Yeah.
I'm still old school. I like my food warmed up in the oven.
Yeah.
But now you have a microwave or an air fryer.
Yeah.
Comfort.
Yeah.
So I believe that we live in the slipstream of comfort and convenience, and it has slipped over into the expectations of the church. That's why, you may have a one Sunday membership class as opposed to taking people through the steps of what it means to be a follower of Christ.
Yeah. John Wilson, he's from Chicago too. He lives here in Atlanta. He talking about, I'm too young to know about Blockbuster. John, you're wrong. I know about Hollywood Video, Blockbuster. I know we used to have a membership back in the day, Cat. So I remember VHSs. I remember betas. I remember.
Man.
I had the big Laserdisc player back in the day, so I watched movies on Laserdisc. I mean, so no, I understand what you mean when you start talking about the comfort and the convenience piece, and that's what Jesus let that young man know, that it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
See, listen, and see that's my problem when the message started to change, because the message had to change, the draw, because ain't nobody gonna advertise. Jesus didn't mind showing his wounds, but he didn't walk around advertising his wounds, right? Because if you advertise the wounds, people aren't gonna come. You gotta say something. If my daddy, right outside his house, he has a 5-acre pond, right? And so I'll call him every now and then. I say, Pop, what you about to do? He said, I'm about to go fishing. But my daddy's fishing ain't like most people's fishing. Most people, when they go fishing, they go sit out there with a pole, stand on the bank, bait the hook, throw it on the water, or get in the boat, do all that. My daddy don't do it like that. My daddy, he'll get in his boat and he'll go through different places on the lake, and he'll set trot lines, right? Where you put this trot line down in the water, Now, he don't put the hook in the water by itself, but he puts something over the hook that covers the hook so that the fish can't see it. But it's enticing enough to the fish so that if the fish bites it, then it bites hard enough and gets hooked, right? So when this message, even from the mega churches, and I'm not hating, I love it. I got friends that are mega church pastors, don't get me wrong, but they had to make a message that was so enticing. But just because it was enticing didn't necessarily mean it was healthy. Because what happened is you had folk that were malnourished, and when the tree was shaken during the pandemic, they fell off.
Yeah.
And see, when you look at John 15 talks about the vine, right? And it talks about that if you're not in the vine, then you'll fall off, and eventually men will gather you like firewood, right? So many people were drawn away, never came back. That's because they never were actually in, because they didn't have that substance, because they didn't understand that troublesome times were gonna come. You remember what? You remember. I know they don't do it no more, but I'm gonna go and say it. I'm gonna say it because we talking tonight, right? I remember a time. I remember a time when preachers used to actually talk about heaven. And so if they talked about heaven, they could talk about the trouble and the trials and the perils and the stuff that we would go through because there was incentive. I'm not going through just to be going through. If I go through, then I'm suffering. I'm living to live again, right? One preacher said, I'm living with HIV, I'm living with heaven in view. So if I'm living with heaven in view, I don't mind going through. I don't mind groaning through, because I know at the end I'm going to grow through when I get to the other side. Heaven is my game each and every day. We'll talk about that no more. What's the incentive?
Why is it that we don't talk about it?
You've been pastoring all these years. I don't know. Tell me. I'm trying to figure it out. I know. Hey, listen, because I know at some point, John Wilson doing the sermons on this, I'm going to say, one of these moaning won't be long. I'm going to look for me. They don't do that no more, Doc. I'm going to be gone, going up to heaven, singing, shout. Won't nobody there be able to put me out? Why do you talk about that?
Well, that's quite difficult now because the competition is what they see today. They see certain groups of people prospering here.
My point.
And then we're sharing what you just shared of going through to get something. And so it presents conflict based on their reality and their expectation.
Yeah. And that's why I said at the beginning, and we didn't say it on this segment, that I think that as we represent Christ, we're going to have to be very careful to represent Christ. I think we're going to have to go back to the basement floor of Christianity. I think, leadership cycles, when you go, don't get me wrong, every round goes higher, but the foundation never changes.
Yeah,
the foundation is firm, and the reason why the house still stands is because of the foundation. Right now, good thing about a good foundation is that sometimes it can be torn down or the structure can be damaged, but if the foundation is right, you can build again. And that's why the eternal church is at the end of the day, it's secure. We're going to be all right because the Bible says, upon this rock, I build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. No matter how the enemy might present itself and even look like we're winning, and sometimes we're really not. It looks like we're winning. You know what I'm saying? It looks like, I don't know, why am I talking like this tonight? I'm sorry. Does that sound negative?
Yeah.
You said, yeah.
Oh, no. You mentioned foundation. You mentioned representing Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought leader in me pushes on that a little bit because there's a cost to that. We talked about earlier and how in Matthew 28 and then 1 John 2, the surprising method of Jesus. Since we live in a comfortable and convenient society, man, I shared earlier that the most surprising thing about Jesus's model for making or developing leaders is that he waited 2.5 years into his ministry before he chose the people that would be his disciples, because he wanted to model the behavior, and then also he wanted them to practice in a safe environment while he was there. And then when he felt, the time was right, boom, empower them to do. But we want to lay hands and affirm people so quick. Discipleship is messy. Discipleship takes time. And if we're going to get to that in a society that wants instant results, rewards, convenience, and comfort, now the leader that figures that out, will have a special place. But since I'm on the back nine of my career and I'm looking at retirement, I'm going to look at it and see and challenge you all to step in and do the thing that's right there. We're trying to, mass produce something that takes time.
Yeah.
And when you got to pay bills, when you have to satisfy deacons and trustees, when you got to pack them pews, man, let me grab, if that brother who was a leader at First Bank of Atlanta, not knowing that he abuses substances. I mean, this stuff takes time. It's messy, and it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. But we don't want to put that time in to do that.
And that's the point. Like you just said, you got comfort. They're looking for comfort and convenience, but they can't handle calamities because we're not consistent. And that's the thing. And you know what, man? I think people, here it is. I think people can handle trials better when they understand that we go through trials too. Right. They because some of us act like we don't go through trials. Like I said, they see the glory, but we don't want to share the story because we don't want people to know that we're vulnerable. We don't want people to know that we hurt. When I released my book, one of my homeboys, he said, "Man, I really appreciate you for your transparency." He said, "That's what I appreciate you for." He said, "Because I didn't realize at the time I had been stuck on the couch." That's what the man said. He said, he said, "I'm cussing. I ain't got no business cussing. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing things that a preacher shouldn't do." He said, "But I've been depressed, man." He said, "I've been stuck and I've been acting out." He said, "But your transparency, man, helped me see it in a different light." And I appreciated him for that testimony. Zontarius is on right now. Zontarius really read the book. He interviewed me about the book, Dr. Stowers. He interviewed me about the book. And first thing he want to do is start talking about some sensitive issues in the book. I'm like, "Bro, you just want to start like that?" He was like, "Yeah." But I told him, but he read it. He read it. And he challenged me on those things, and I appreciated him for that, right? Because the thing is, man, I look at it like this: the Bible says in Revelations that they overcame the Lamb they were overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of their testimonies, right? When you look at Joshua chapter 5, when Joshua was speaking to the people that were stacking the stones, he said, "I want you to stack these stones so that when the children come and see them and they ask what these stones mean, I want you to tell them how God divided the waters." In other words, tell them the testimonies, right? But so many of us don't want to tell our testimonies, man, because we want to keep those band-aids on to cover up the wounds. But wounds have a way of healing faster when they're in the open air. Right? When the oxygen hits the wounds, and after you put the antiseptic on it, and I ain't gonna lie, I've never really seen antiseptic that didn't hurt. Maybe peroxide, might have cleaned it out and didn't have a whole lot of pain. But alcohol, witch hazel, it hurt, but it was working on me. It was hurting, but it was working on me, right? It was cleaning me out. And eventually then that sore, here it is, that sore transitioned to a scab. And then eventually it became a scar. And every scar has a testimony.
Absolutely.
A scar says it's evidence that I went through what I went through, but there's no more pain associated with what I went through. And so now that there's no more pain associated with what I went through, I can talk about it.
Yeah. And the cost of following Jesus, and when you say that, the pain and all isn't about what we give up.
Yeah.
It's really more about how we're transformed into that person that he's called us to be. You mentioned the illustration of the scar and the open air, and then putting the antiseptic and all of that, which becomes a part of that story, which now is a part of that whole transformational story. And I just think we do things too quickly. We affirm too quickly, as opposed to slowing it down so that we can do the necessary work of Christ and how discipleship should go.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think this is the point of the show, to recognize instances, that actually do fuel our faith, right? When we get to the mature place and posture, when Elijah was by the brook of Kerith, Kerith being the place of cutting, God, it was like God allowed him to go through surgery with no anesthesia, right? And so sometimes we go through that in life likewise, and rather than panic or pout, I used to hear Bishop Craig Oliver say this, rather than panic or pout, that's a good time to pray. If we understood who it is that we're actually following. The scribe had an idea. The young scribe had an idea of who Jesus was based on his teaching, his inspiration, and also by his demonstrations. And so he had an idea of who Jesus was, but he didn't really know who Jesus. He wanted Jesus' glory, but he wasn't ready if he was ready. He wasn't sure if he was ready for Jesus' story. And that's what Jesus said. Jesus said, if you're going to do this, count up the cost.
Yeah.
And that was just one of the costs.
And speaking of cost, what we think we're losing for Jesus, and think about it. When you sincerely go all in, 10 toes down for Jesus, and people start thinking about the things that they're going to lose, the things that they're going to miss out. But what they fail to see is, I may lose on this end, but it's nothing compared to how I'm being transformed and what he's leading me to.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yes. That's the story we have to tell. You feel what I'm saying? That's the whole. That's what the gospel. It's not only what the gospel is. It's also what the gospel does.
Yes.
It's not only what the God, when we teach this, and I don't know why God, because I was doing relationships and everything else on my podcast, but now God has led me full circle to do what I'm called, what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not always what the gospel is. It's what the gospel does. It's the transforming power. Because the thing is that he wanted to follow for the demonstrations, but he didn't realize how he was going to be changed. Because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And then all of a sudden you start seeing things that fuel that faith. And then you get to the point where you flat out say that there's no secret what God can do. Because what he's done for others, and I saw it with my own eyes. I saw him lay hands on Peter's mother-in-law. I saw him saying a word, and the centurion servant was healed. I saw an unhealable condition, a leper that had been declared unclean, But all of a sudden, Jesus said, go show yourself to the priest. And
Yeah.
he goes to the priest. And he was once white, but now he's no longer white because the priest has declared him clean. I've seen it with my own eyes, but that's all I've seen. But Jesus said, no. That ain't it. And that's the message we got to tell. You're going to see some folk get their bills paid. You're going to see some folk God's going to remove spots off of x-rays. You're going to see some folk get new cars when you didn't. But then there's going to be some time when the loved one passes away. And there's going to be time that the shut-off notice is that even in spite of it, that your lights are going to get cut off. But when your lights got cut off, now you didn't have time to watch TV. You had to pray. You had to meditate. You had to think on certain things in that moment because God will put you in whatever situation he needs to put you in to get you out of him if you really consider the cost. And I'm telling you, the anointing is not cheap.
Yeah. And you speak to that because now in my latter years of pastor, I'm looking at the first third, second third, and now this final third. What I did not do is what you're sharing, and that is teaching our people to step back and gain perspective, because sometimes the answers that we pray for, the things that we expect, won't be physical and tangible. Sometimes those blessings will be peace of mind, internal and invisible.
Yes, sir.
And if we have the capacity to rightly divide the word, then we also need that capacity to step back and help people get perspective. For example, if I'm praying for, Lord, bless my finances, Lord, bless me with my, increase. He's like, that's not really what you need. What you really need is to learn contentment and discipline.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to put you in the opposite situation so that I can teach the life-changing intangibles, and that aids the transformation that we get when we become fully devoted followers of Christ.
Man, and that's the thing.
That makes sense. Does that make any sense?
Doc, I'm okay about it. In fact, hold on. You've earned one. I don't know what I'm waiting on. Hold on. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. You earned one, so let me go and give you one right there. Doc, you are 100% right. You are 100% right, because this is the thing, man. This is the thing that Jurgens Moltmann wrote a book talking about the suffering Savior, right? So, we put suffering on a platform, like on a pedestal, you know what I'm saying? Some of us wear suffering like a badge of honor, but then there are others who don't think that they should suffer. And I'm going to tell you, I've been going through it for a while. I mean, I ain't going to lie to you. It's been a minute, but I've never viewed my suffering as suffering through. I always viewed it as suffering too. Yeah. I always viewed it as, what is God trying to get out of me? Like I say oftentimes, I say life.
Kirkland.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Have you thought about this? Because again, like I said, I'm on the back end, the back nine. One of the most liberating things that has ever happened in regards to how you framed that wearing suffering as a badge versus not going through anything at all. Check this out. The Lord has specifically shown me that there are some tensions that you won't ever resolve, and some problems that you will resolve. And what frustrates most of us is trying to resolve something that we have to sit with and live with, like Paul's thorn. There's some tensions that we're going to go through in life that we never resolve. We learn to sit with it. We learn to manage the tension.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, there are some that we do A, B, and C. This is going to happen. So when I learned that and I understood that, then it allowed a greater perspective and to show people, okay, this is really what doing life together is all about, is helping you bear that burden while you carry your load.
Yeah.
help you sit with and manage that tension as you go through life, which again strengthens the faith and then transforms you into that Christ likeness, that fully devoted follower of Christ.
Man, and that's all David did. Everybody else was in the house, close to daddy. David would spend nights with the sheep. You know what? If you read Ray Backey, he's an author.
Yeah.
You know Ray Backey.
Oh yeah.
He one of his stages of him and John Perkins, you know, the father of community development. One of the stages of leader of community development they talk about is relocation, right? They talk about living among the people that you minister to. So I'm going. Now everybody don't want to move to the hood. I understand that, you know what I'm saying. But you at least need to be able to be among them, to be touched by their infirmities, right? And that's what Jesus offered in his ministry. He was touched by the same infirmities. Isn't it interesting the different facets that Jesus conquered when he came, after the Sermon on the Mount in chapter 8? Number one, he spoke to the leper, said, "Go show yourself to the priest." He spoke to him. He healed from a distance with the centurion's servant. He said, "I just saying a word." He laid hands on Peter's mother-in-law, you know, which shows his humanity, right? He touches it. But then he casts out demons, which means he has power over the supernatural, you know. So he shows so many different facets of himself in that moment. So who wouldn't want to follow that? People want to plug into what looks successful. You know, we're in this crypto right now, boy. XRP been running, right? XRP took off like I don't know what. But man, if we had, you know, I bought it when it was at this thing, but it dropped real low. I stopped buying it. But if I had kept buying it, you know, because everybody wants to invest in the right thing. People did church the same way.
Yeah.
Why would I say that? I don't know why I say stuff like that. I'm sorry.
So Kirkland, are you saying you did what you don't want people to do? You ran when the heat got hot?
No, but I held on to what I had, though. At least I held on. I held on to what I had, and I did have something. Don't get me wrong, you know. But I knew people who were buying, you know, because think about it, you know, people get rich, like Pastor Evan said last week. The pandemic didn't treat everybody the same. He said people got rich during the pandemic. A lot of people got rich, you know. So people had to go through, you know. He said because tragedy don't affect everybody the same way, right? He said, you know, he said tragedy doesn't affect everybody the same way. What's a tragedy for you might not necessarily be a tragedy for me, right? Some people got rich during the pandemic. So certain conditions that are specific, you know, what bothers you doesn't necessarily bother me. A size 10 shoe is tight for me, but it might fit you perfectly, right? You know, because I wear 12. You know what I'm saying? So we all have trial specific situations, right? Specific, you know, what you consider a trial, you know, somebody like, man, that ain't nothing. No, it's something to you. And Christ said that even in those moments, you can still be of good cheer. Why? Because of what I did. I already overcame the world. So I wish the scribe could have got the whole message, because Jesus is the message. All he said was birds have holes, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man hath nowhere to lay his head. Can you? What you gonna do with that? You still want to follow me? And if you put data out, so that's why you gotta keep talking about the walls of Jasper. That's why we gotta keep talking about the streets of gold. If we're gonna give the full gospel message, because the gospel is not only what the gospel is, like we just said, it's what the gospel does. And that transforming process sometimes, Doc, it's painful. Dr. Stowers, you know, those that just came in, Dr. Stowers told his story during the pandemic. They had a building. You know, they ended up selling the building, but the building needed a whole bunch of renovations, so he decided to go to Mars Hill. That's part of the reason you're here tonight, because I knew about Mars Hill anyway. I watched your journey when you started going digital. I watched how you started having a hybrid church. So I view that as evangelism. I view that as fellowship. That's why you're here tonight, because that's what God has shown me to invite you in. Oh, one second. What side of Chicago are you on?
West side. I was on the west side of Chicago. I'm in the suburbs now. in McCook,
Okay.
Illinois. But
Okay.
yeah, west side of Chicago, Austin and Lake Street, baby.
That's what John Wilson is asking what side you're on. Like I said, he's
Yes,
from
yes,
he's
yeah.
he's a Dr. DLP disciple. He's the son of Dr. Donna Parsons. But he
Oh
pastors
yeah, Logos Baptist Assembly. Yeah,
Yeah.
South Side.
Yeah, but he pastors here now. But he comes through the tree of the same church I came through at Jackson Memorial. So that's good.
Okay. All right. Well,
great
pleasure
friend
to
of
meet
mine.
you, brother.
Yeah. Let's see. Lynn Spencer said, let's read what she said. You feel that you were given a bad hand in life, but when you trust God in your trials in life, we become a new creation of understanding through Christ. Absolutely. That all comes.
Yeah.
That all comes with the mentality. That comes with what's being taught, right? That's what comes when old folk, they have a whole lot of theology, but they did have a lot of theology. They'll say something simple like Dr. Stowers, like when you know what you know, and you know who you know, and you know what he's done for you, you can make it through. You have a different mindset.
Absolutely.
Your perception of trials are totally different when you really understand this whole gospel piece, man. And that's a good thing. Pastor Stowers, man, I appreciate you for coming in tonight and sharing your wisdom and your experiences. But for our listeners that may be struggling right now, what would you say to them about the cost of following Christ and the reward of staying faithful through it all?
Following Jesus isn't about taking that one big deep leap. It's about taking that next small step. So whatever that small step may be, and I share this all the time. Hey, what's the one thing that I can do today that's going to move me towards Christ likeness? Because salvation is a process. People don't talk about this too much anymore. When we're first saved, we're saved from the penalty of sin.
Yes, sir.
And then the second is sanctification, where we're saved from the power and the pull of sin, which is what we're all in right now. And then final, of course, is glorification, where we're saved from the presence of sin, where we in the presence of the Lord. So along that road of sanctification, man, there are going to be several steps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we want to get people from getting saved to getting ready to meet Jesus in one big step, and we'll bombard them. But if we can just pause and focus on, okay, what's that next step? Because it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to give up something. But understand, as you posted up on the screen, of having the right mindset, the right perspective as you go through it, what's that next step that I can take? So whatever it is that you're going through, it has a beginning, a middle part, and an expiration date. And when it's so hard that you want to give up, you right there at the point where the expiration date is about to occur. So what's the next small step that I can take that will aid into my discipleship, knowing that following Jesus is not about taking that big leap?
Yeah, that's good stuff. Like, I appreciate you for your wisdom. Like I said, I appreciate you. Really, I do. Marzio, anywhere, Chicago, Illinois. This is Pastor Stowers.
Bless you, brother.
Pastor Clarence Stowers' son plays professional baseball. He's in Mexico now, right?
He's in Mexico, right? Yep. He's in Mexico.
What organization is he with now? With MLB organization is he with now?
The last organization was the Dodgers. So
okay.
He ain't seeing no time there. Pretty.
The Yankees, since our boy got that $150 million, he better go get back to the Yankees and get in the right field. Get in right field.
Hey, wherever they're calling, hey, that's where you're going. So we're praying that something opens up where there's a clear path to get to where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's crazy. You and I saw you in Fort Myers, Florida.
Man.
I think it was. We didn't even speak to each other, but I just knew it was you. And then we ended up finding I don't know how we ended up finding each other on the internet, and here we are, man, having this conversation tonight.
We are.
Listen, if you missed this conversation about fellowship, we looked at Matthew chapter 8 tonight, and we talked about where the young scribe had gotten so excited after seeing Jesus performing those demonstrations that he wanted to follow Jesus. But Jesus said, before you do that, you need to consider the cost. Listen, nobody said, this the songwriter said, nobody said that the road was gonna be easy.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I do believe that I don't believe he brought me this far to lead me. And if he's leading me, then I don't think he'll lead me anywhere where he can't keep me.
Yeah.
And when you look up the word keep in the Greek, it's the Greek word phulasso. It means something that would have spoiled, has a renewed lease on life because it's been kept. In other words, it's been preserved. And that's what he does with us. He preserves us. He keeps us in spite of us, right? He's married to the backslider. He gives us another chance, like, not second chance, but not a third chance, but he just gives us another chance. And every time. And honestly, who wouldn't serve a God like that? So I am excited about tonight's show. I hate that we had our technical difficulty. We were getting deep into that thing earlier.
Oh, we were.
we were getting deep.
We made it back
thing.
around.
Yeah, we made it back around. We lost a few of our people who were listening. They got tired of all of the stuttering and all that kind of stuff. But maybe they'll catch the replay a little bit later on. John Wilson, appreciate you. Lynn Spencer, thank you. All of those who have tapped in tonight. Pastor Stowers, do you have any closing words before we get ready to get out of here tonight?
Yeah, I did. I saw a comment that flashed on the screen where the person was talking about, giving a bad hand in life and becoming new, something like that, I believe. And knowing that we go through those moments, yes, that's it. When you feel you were given a bad hand in life, but when you trust God in your trials in life, we become new creation. As we go through, because the rain is going to fall on the just and the unjust. And what I try to share with people is, hey, is this a tension that will need to be managed, something that's ongoing, or is this a problem that I can solve or solve with the help and the aid of others? Knowing the difference between those two, my God, will either enhance your journey or it will impede your journey. Because I think we spend too much time trying to solve a tension that we're going to live with for a while. And one of that is navigating life in this country as this. That's a tension we manage.
Wow. Give us those two things again, one more time. Give us those two things one more time. We're going to leave on those notes.
Oh, yeah. Whatever trials that we're going through, we have to ask ourselves, is it a tension that we manage, or is it a problem that we can resolve? And oftentimes we spend, tension we manage or a problem that we resolve. And oftentimes we spend way too much time trying to solve something that we just have to live with and manage it.
That's good.
And knowing the difference is going to either enhance your faith walk or impede it.
Yeah. That's a really, really good thought to leave on.
Bless you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Next week we're gonna do faith for healing. We're gonna do faith for healing next week. We're gonna look at Matthew. We're gonna keep on going. We're gonna look at Matthew chapter 9 next week, and I'm gonna have Bishop G.T. Lewis on with me next week. Listen, I'm going back to the basics, man. Y'all can be deep and do y'all's prosperity gospel and all this other stuff, and y'all go ahead. I want to be prosperous too. Don't get me wrong, but I need some foundation, man, because I know the wind's gonna come. Man. You know what? I know you're not from the country, so I'm from the country, man. I used to live in Sherrill, Arkansas. Sherrill, Arkansas. Grandmama, she didn't want us in her kitchen late at night. So she would give us something around 5 o'clock that stuck to her eye bones. She'd give us beans and cornbread, or, something that when you ate it, it provided enough substance to keep you full through the rest of the night. At the bare minimum, you might get a snack, And I think that's the problem, is that as spiritual dietitians, we haven't given people enough substance. We gave them something for their head, but we ain't giving nothing for their soul. So we got a whole bunch of smart people, right? But there's going to be a lot of smart people going to hell, because at the end of the day, God said he chooses the foolish things to confound the wise, right? He don't care how much you know. A lot of times, how much you care.
Yeah.
There's some smart folk going to hell, Doc, because we don't have no substance, man. We got to have spirit. We got to love people. We got to treat people right. We got to start with the very foundational principles, man. And I'm committed. That's what I'm going to do. So
and that takes time.
It takes time, no doubt about it.
But
it should be a natural thing. We should just treat people right because it's the right thing to do. But we don't.
I agree.
We don't. We mistreat people. We have favorites. We have all that kind of stuff. And then we think, and sometimes God, I ain't gonna say God blesses it, but he lets it happen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I would go back and listen. I'm gonna laugh a lot later on. Yeah. Sometimes it's crazy. Just because he let it happen don't mean he necessarily blessed it, right? Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm such a troublemaker.
Brother, I want to thank you once again, man. Thank you once again for letting me be a part of your platform. And as I wake up every day and pray, Lord, wherever I go, let me add value to someone's life.
Well, you certainly added value tonight. You've added value tonight, and I appreciate you. I was trying to get you in the Missus on to come teach us how to be good men and women at one time. I got to get y'all on again. Y'all were going through some stuff back then, but I'm gonna get you on one of these days. One of these days, I'm gonna send you a plane ticket and get you and her to come to Arkansas and come to one of my events. I do a live event called Bonding of the Sexes.
Okay.
It's a podcast in front of a live audience, and we have 2 or 3 different segments. It's a real good thing, man. We're gonna take it across the country eventually, but we do it in Little Rock, Arkansas.
How I can help?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, and I will, because this microphone, this XLR cable, all this kind of stuff is as a result of you. Because you taught me how to set this thing up when I first started doing my podcast. I didn't know what an XLR cable was. You were like, buy several of them. And this one never went out. You said get you several because in case one went out. This one never going out, knock on wood. But it's all good. It's all good.
Follow this mantra. If you have one of them, you have none of them.
Okay. You absolutely. Follow this mantra.
You got to duplicate everything in the streaming game. If you have one of them, you have none of them. You got to have 2 or 3 of everything.
I'll ride with that one. Dr. Stowers, I've held you long enough. I know your wife is saying, can you come on, please? It's enough. You've been talking to him long enough. So,
she was on with us tonight.
Is she? Was she? Okay, tell her I said, I appreciate you. I know she supports the world out you, and that's a wonderful thing. So I appreciate her for allowing you to come and be a part of this conversation, because I'm sure she's suffered with you throughout these 30 years. How long y'all been married?
33.
Okay.
33 years. There she is. I think she's on. She just texted me.
Oh, yeah, she said here. Okay. Hey, how you doing? Good. So we weren't too bad. I ain't cussing nothing tonight, Sister First Lady Stowers. So I ain't cussing that. I'm trying.
Man, that ain't nothing new.
Yeah, I'm trying to do better. It was the time I cuss, but I don't use no big cuss words or nothing like that. But every now and then I used to cuss every now and then. I don't cuss no more. Listen, I'm joking. I do cuss. I know how to cuss. But I guess I'm gonna watch this Dallas game the rest of the night. Y'all, I thought I was gonna be a Chicago Bear fan, but y'all let my boy go, so I can't support y'all no more. Man,
that's a temperamental topic up here right about now.
I know. I'm sorry.
We struggling, man. We struggling.
Yeah, y'all got Caleb though, so y'all will be all right, I guess. I want to.
Oh yeah, we'll be all right.
Yeah, I was a Justin fan. So
Yeah, I'm a
His brother was
JF1 fan.
You know, him and my son. He and my son played baseball together, so we all were all close together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I heard he was a great pitcher.
Okay.
Was he a pitcher?
I ain't know. I didn't see him pitch much, but he might have. They had him playing third base.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff like that. I didn't really see him pitch a whole lot. I
Oh,
don't remember him pitch. Baseball
Okay.
wasn't. He was an athlete. Baseball wasn't really his sport. He just was a really, really good athlete. And because he was such a good athlete
Okay.
in baseball, then of course they automatically pushed him to the top in baseball. You know, and so good at football, they automatically pushed to the top in baseball too. He was good, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but he wasn't the like blue chipper in our area. Now we had some people
Gotcha.
who were. Yeah. Now I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking negative, so Ivan don't come for me. I ain't gonna fight. Ivan his dad used to be a police officer. I don't want to fight, so we good. I'm dropping. All right, y'all. I've held y'all long enough. We had a good night. No, for real, Dr. Stowers, for real. If I call you again when you come back, I'll find another
Yes.
subject, and I'll make
Absolutely.
sure that I have my Ethernet cord hooked up next time. And we'll do it the right way, or I'll be in the studio or something. So
Got you covered.
y'all tell
Got
Dr.
you
Stowers
covered.
thank you for coming tonight, and I'll close us
Yes,
out.
you all.
We'll be good. All right, man. Be good. I appreciate you. All right, that was a good conversation. Like I said, I apologize for the technical difficulties earlier, but hey, things happen. But at the end of the day, the conversation ended like we wanted it to end. Now, as I close, as I always close, I say the same thing. I'm not going to change tonight, but I want you to consider this thought. The world is changing. My question for you is why? It's on my shirt. Why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good night, and I'll catch you next time.
Intellectuals do